So this is a class on Rorschach training. If any of you see a very bizarre French maid, never mind, sorry. I thought that was funny. Anyway, hi, I'm Dr. David Snyder. Welcome to Speed Reading People for Fun and Profit. This is one of my favorite classes to teach. It's also the one that fascinates most people, and yet many times it's often the most daunting. Now, I teach hypnotic language and all kinds of really cool influence and persuasion stuff, and everybody's fascinated about body language this and body language that, and I don't see many people really making as much use of it as they could. And it's not your fault, because most of us, we buy book after book, watch video after video after video, and think, that's cool, that's cool, that's cool. And then we get out in the field, because it's too much. Because we're trying to memorize way too many things all at the same time. Now, some of us have very, very good intuition or intuitive understanding of facial expressions and body language and stuff like that. I hate you people. But then there's the rest of us, right? Now, this particular discipline was more of a survival need that turned into a superpower for me. Many of you know this, a lot of you don't. I didn't just pop out of the womb wearing vests and being cool and all this other shit. Yeah, I know, it's hard for me to believe too. It's so many years ago, but I almost gave a very, Steve Martin made a great movie called The Jerk back in like the 70s that we could never get made today, right? So I really wanted to quote that movie, but I didn't want to get too hard. Anyway, but the point is that I was not a popular kid at all. I had probably every stereotypical setback you could. I was bigger around than I was tall. I had little to no social skills, no filter. No filter, right? I wore glasses, which is not as bad a thing as it was back then, right? So many things have turned around for us. And I was desperate. I had a very sensitive nervous system, deeply insecure, and a desperate need to be liked, desperate need or desire to be included. And because of that, I was often targeted. I was often bullied. I was often made scapegoated, gaslit, things of that nature. And I realized after one more crushing heartbreak, again, I'm not trying to bring you down. I'm trying to give you an understanding of why this is important to me and why I think we all need to understand this, both in terms of our own personal growth, but also in terms of how we're going to use it to help clients. Because our clients will follow our lead, and they'll connect with us and have that therapeutic revelation to the degree that they recognize we've been where they are, to the degree that they recognize we understand them. Does that make sense? And people reading is one of those skills that I consider it to be a force multiplier. If outside of very select disciplines, face reading won't let you do anything exactly, but it will allow you to do everything better and make it more effective, more targeted, things of that nature. So that's so the job for me, as I was going through this and I was going through my learning curve and things of that nature, became not how much information can I acquire, but how easily can I use it, right? Because this is the simple rule of human nature. If it's not easy, you won't do it. You won't do it. If it's not fun, you probably won't do it. If it doesn't get you a positive, consistent result, you probably won't do it. So the question becomes, how do we take, you guys know I co-train with Chase Hughes, and he's been a colleague of mine. He actually was a student. He studied my stuff before he ever became famous. It was kind of interesting. First time I walked in, I signed up for one of his trainings, and he texted me. I didn't give him my phone number. Think about that for a moment. Dude, you signed up for my training. And we've been very close and collaborating ever since. It's been an amazing journey. But Chase will sit in front of the room and he will give you trait after trait after trait after trait. And just when you think you're being overwhelmed, he'll show you the behavioral table of the elements. And what's left of your brain will dribble out your ears. Right? And it's not wrong. It's too much. So the question becomes, how do we make the science and the practice of reading people easier? Is there a way to distill all of this data from all these different ways of reading people down to a simple set of heuristics, a simple set of guidelines, things to do that give us the greatest, biggest chance of making the right guess? Because even the best lie detectors and body language experts on the planet are only 60% right. And you have to understand something. When the body language experts I'm talking about, and you can watch the behavior panel all day long, but I studied actual kinesic interview and interrogation in college because I idolized. Anybody know who the Quincy was, the medical examiner? Right? Yeah, you're old like me. Right? If you know who Quincy is, welcome to the golden age. Right? But I loved Quincy. And Quincy was probably the first coroner. Right? He was a forensic specialist. And then shortly after that, this whole idea of forensic psychology and profiling, and I just fell in love with that. That was just my jam. You know, I was an NLP practitioner, and I saw how they all connected. But I actually studied criminal. I dual majored. I was pre-med, and I was also criminal justice in undergrad. And then it came to a point where I actually had to make a decision. And I looked at the amount of income that a medical person makes, the amount of stress that they have, and the amount of money a policeman makes, and the amount of stress that they have, and probably chose healthcare. Right? But I never lost my fascination and desire to understand humans. Little did I know that I would wind up in a room 8 to 10, 12 hours a day for 20 years, navigating other people's internal world and actually utilizing the skills I learned in criminal justice to help them cure themselves. And that's where this comes from. What started out for me as a way to protect myself from manipulation and bullying and who was lying to me and who wasn't became my ability to go out into the world and make a difference. It helped me do everything better. So if it's okay with you in the time that we have, and again, if this is the scope of everything there is to learn in the 2 hours we have, I got time for this. So here's the deal. I will take you as far down this rabbit hole as I can. It'll not overwhelm you. Oh, the energy's acting up. I did my Qigong over at the Rock and Crystal store. They have this, if you ever go there, in the back room, there's this big line of nothing but geodes. And I went and I did my pulling out the heavens and my 1 through 10 and my snake kung fu. And I was, there can be only one. Anyway, so I'm going to take you as far down that rabbit hole as I can. And I'll point you in the direction of where to go to get access to more stuff. Is that fair? Yes. Perfect. So, 2 other things. A, you're probably wondering what this is actually for. Well, I'm glad you asked. I thought that was funny. Okay.
What's that for, David?
It's for this. This is an old slide, but it's good enough. This is the Mondo Supremo I Want It All package. This was a package I put together in 2012 at HypnoThoughts Live. Because everything I wanted to do, I didn't have an offer for the people and I didn't have anything to do. And so all of a sudden I got the download and I had no time to copy it and make it all pretty. So I wrote it on a sheet of loose leaf notebook paper and I went to the copy center and I burned it off and I handed it out and like 20 people bought it. Right? So what is this? I don't know if you can see it in the back. It's your choice. Now, it's your choice. You don't need to choose today. It's your choice of any 2 live events in the Snyderverse between now and the end of time. So if it takes you 2.5 years, 3 years, 4 years to use this, it's waiting for you when you're ready. If we raise the prices, it doesn't matter. If the event's sold out, we'll make a seat for you. Does that make sense? Yes. You also get, it's valued at $4,500. It's actually more now, and you get your choice of 2 full-length video courses. So I do a lot of 5-day events, and I videotape those, and I have a whole list of them usually in the things that I hand out. We'll make sure whoever takes advantage of this gets that, so you can choose which courses you want. Plus, you get your choice of any 5 smaller digital video products, usually like $297, $997 or less. Any 5 of them you can have. Now, the reason I'm telling you about this isn't because I'm trying to sell it to you, believe it or not. I'm telling you this because at least 3, maybe up to 5 of you are going to win one of these. So we're going to be, because Mercury is in retrograde, I had to fudge my normal process. Normally I'd have a very low-tech solution for you, but all you need to do is get out your cell phone, scan this QR code. It's going to take you to a form. Fill out your name and email, and then sometime between now and Monday, I am going to go into my Jot form, and I'm going to randomly select, how, I don't know. I'm going to randomly select 3 to 5 names, and you'll receive an email from me saying, hey, you won the package. What do you want to do next? What's that?
Can't do it from here.
You can come on up. Yeah, take some minutes, come up and scan the code. Well, that was until they encountered Qigong. What?
So when you go up, you don't take a picture, there's going to be a little pop-up. So you don't take a picture of the code, but a yellow thing will pop up under the thing, and you press that button. Stop you take a picture.
So what he's saying is if you go and try to take a picture, a little yellow bar is going to pop. Just press the button. Hover away, baby. I'm good with it. While you guys are doing that, my question is there a particular application of reading people that you'd like to know more about before I arbitrarily decide?
What are our courses? Thank you.
Well, I have handwriting analysis, I have body language, I have face reading and emotional maps of the face. We could talk a little bit about microexpressions, but they kind of come and go. So.
Face and body.
Face and body?
Especially for maybe first time meeting with a client.
Perfect. That's right up my alley. Most people aren't doing handwriting analysis, and we don't handwrite anymore, which is terrible because it was such a useful skill back in the day, but nobody does it. Then I found face reading, and life got good again. Okay. Now, I'm going to start with my heuristic approach, right? We're going to look at big picture stuff first, and this is one of the first rules that I want you to embrace, is that if you can't see the big stuff, you'll never catch the little stuff. So I'm someone who tends to think very strategically in how I'm going to profile, and I'm big on personality profiling, and that's why I use many different tools: NLP, hypnosis, the Chase's system. I was one of the first people to get the mastery certification. I used handwriting analysis, and there's another system to you about, and it's called it's a program called the website is called CP Journal, and it's based, and the information in that website is based on a program that the military uses called the Combat Hunter program. Now, one of the things that you learn when you start studying kinesics, and especially for law enforcement, is you understand very, very quickly that most kinesic training is reactionary. In other words, police usually can't do something until somebody's crossed a line, right? Every now and then they get lucky and see somebody about to do something and they can proactively go after it. But by and large, the body language and the kinesic things that legal professionals learn outside of counterintelligence and things of that nature is largely reactionary, right? And getting back to close the loop on the 60%, the 60% on the body language accuracy we're talking about requires those experts to watch the video of that person over and over and over and over and over and to find all the little patterns and all the little nuances. None of you really have that luxury. Like you have to make a quick decision, right? Even if it's with a client, you only got 10, 15, 20 minutes before you got to get into the session, right? So how do we fix this, right? Well, if you understand the heuristic processes I'm about to share with you, and then you overlay on top of that the face reading that we'll cover, you're going to have a really quick x-ray into who this person is, where their traumas are most likely to be. And so even though they're coming in for a presenting problem, you can kind of have a little background prompt as to what might be coming up during this session. Does that make sense? Because the face always shows us what we're repressing. It really does. And you're going to ask me the Botox question. I know this. So I'm just going to answer it, right? And then you're going to ask me about, well, what if they don't mark? Can I still read the face? Or if they're wearing a hijab, can I still read their face? And yes, you can. Because there's far more to the face reading system than just wrinkles, right? In fact, when we understand, and what's interesting about it is more and more validation of these thousands of year-old practices are coming out through the use of big data, like being able to just crunch massive amounts of information. Like we've finally figured out that narcissism can be seen in the eyebrows. Narcissism can be seen in the eyebrows. And what they did was they took some people who were classic narcissists, diagnosed, and they took their pictures and they narrowed things down to the characteristics of the eyebrow. And then they took the eyebrow and they superimposed it on different faces. And every place the eyebrow showed up, they pegged the person as a narcissist using big data, right? The work of Dr. Helen Fisher. Now, how many people know who Dr. Helen Fisher is, besides Seth? Right? So you all recognize Seth because his back of his head was towards you, right? Dr. Helen, you probably don't know who Dr. Helen Fisher is, but you've probably all heard of Match.com. She's the woman who developed the personality typing system for Match.com. And in her book, Why Him, Why Her, she correlates certain facial characteristics to the dominance of certain hormonal pathways in your body, right? So again, we're seeing that a water face has a lot more estrogen in it. A metal face has a lot more serotonin in it, and wood, or testosterone. A wood face has a lot more testosterone and dopamine, right? There's correlations. So we know that there's something where there's smoke, there's fire. We didn't have that 20 years ago, right? So there is and the Chinese 2,500 years ago had already correlated all of the markings on your face to the health of your body. In fact, it was so pervasive, they could actually, by reading your face and treating your face, they could heal your body. It's really cool, right? And we're going to bring all these things together in the form of a heuristic process. Taking this huge amount of information and compressing it down to a few simple things or questions that we ask. Would that be useful? Yes. Okay. So here's your first principle. And how many were at my talk yesterday? All right, pop quiz. Why do we start every single David Snyder talk with hooked on a feeling? It's not to get you out of the food coma. Energy? Good answer. Wrong? No, it's not. It's wrong. It's not the one I'm looking for, but it is true.
Everything about feelings and emotions.
Very good. Everything we do, everything human beings do, is in response to a feeling. A feeling they want more of, or a feeling they want a whole lot less of. And every decision your neurology makes is based on that one distinction. Well, guess which part of you controls your behavior? It ain't your brain. It's your autonomic nervous system. So if we understand that crossroads where every form of human endeavor comes in and every form of human endeavor comes out, including behavior, we got it. Now, how does that relate? How do we do this? It's real simple. We're gonna jump to NLP for this. Everything human beings do, unless you're well-trained, like super well-trained, comes down to feelings. Towards pleasure, away from pain. That's it. Towards and away from. Every body language characteristic that a human being can express is telling you one thing. They're either moving towards something or away from something. But the way they do it can be subtle. So, everybody stand up. I'll put this down. And this is, again, I'm having you stand up largely so you don't fall asleep. So everybody take your finger, touch your hairline, and draw it down the front of your body just like this. This is called your ventral line. In acupuncture and Oriental medicine, we would call this your conception vessel. Now take your two fingers, place them under your eyes, and just drag them down your cheeks through the front of your body like this. This space here and this space here, your center line or ventral line, and these two lines represent what we call your constructive center. All of your major organs fall within that constructive center line. When human beings feel safe and they feel empowered, they open access to the ventral line. When they feel threatened, unsafe, they don't like what they're seeing, they close off the ventral line, either literally, symbolically, or through movement. So the first thing to understand is that there is a continuum. Can I use you, sir? Come on up. And let's see, I need a hot woman for you to work with. You, come on up. Come on up. All right, so these are my lovely assistants, and they're going to demonstrate a couple of things. You can have a seat now. They're going to demonstrate a couple of things for you, okay? Remember that everything human beings do is going to be towards and away from. They're going to be either moving towards connection or away from it. This is any average, off-the-shelf human being. Okay? It takes a very, very spiritually motivated person to override that programming. In kinesic interview and interrogation, we intentionally add more fire to the nervous system so you can't consciously control it and we can see it. So the more nervous arousal a person has, positive or negative, the more the conscious mind can't control the body. And it'll start to do things like open the ventral line or expose areas of the body that are very sensitive because it's an attraction gesture. It's a towards gesture, right? It doesn't really matter what the gesture is. All you have to look is, do I have more exposure to this or less? That's it. And you can start to extrapolate the dynamic of an interaction. Does that make sense? Okay, so this is the first thing. I call this the rapport continuum, but we're also going to stack on that this whole idea of safety and comfort. So, and one of the reasons that this is really useful, because now you can go out into the world amongst humans in their natural habitat and test it, right? I don't want you to believe anything I say. I want you to take it as, no pun intended, I don't want you to take it at face value, right? So, Andrea, right? Adrian is ventral facing this way, right? Bob is ventral facing this way. Now, let's say that we're at, a nightclub or a singles bar or something. And Adrian is sitting at the bar. She's having her drink. And Bob makes the approach. We have tone, right? Now, I'm going to love this. So what do we know about this dynamic right away? What do you know? So, what do we know about the ventral line? What do we do with our ventral line when we're interested or moving towards? We voice. What do we do when we aren't having it? Who's more interested? Right? This is a common dating dynamic. Right? Now, if it were Adrian's turn, Cold fish. Same idea, right? It doesn't matter if you're male or female, right? What matters is, where's that center line facing, right? Now, the rapport continuum starts like this. I'm going to move you out here. This is anti-rapport. This is decon power, right? These are two people with no connection moving away. Now, as connection continues, and this is true in any interaction, I use attraction as the archetype because I believe all social interactions are derivatives of this. 1 + 1 = 3. When that 1 + 1 = 3 can be a man and a woman making a baby, it can be a woman and a woman adopting a baby, it can be two potential business partners creating another business or another joint venture. It doesn't matter. You're going to see very, very similar behavioral heuristics. Okay? So, as interest begins, it starts with attention. That happens. That happens. And then proximity starts to close. See, you're doing it already. He's already attracted. You're going to have a stalker by the time I'm done, right? And then a little bit more orientation. A little bit more orientation. Sideways. There we go. Sideways. There we go. A little bit more. A little bit more. It's getting pretty cool now, huh? And then take a step. And then you take a step. They're in each other's space now, right? And all that's going to happen is they're going to continue to do that until this happens. Then it's time to find a more secluded spot. Okay? Again, if you go to my YouTube channel and if you type in the mating dance, 7 stages of romantic body language of attraction, you will see the exact body language phases that people go through when they go from complete stranger to intimate, right? One of the things you'll notice if you watch people, thank you, these people, be a round of applause. All you need to do is notice ventral who's pointing at who? How far apart are they? And if you watch people when they come into a restaurant, especially if they're on a first or second date, and where they sit, and if you are willing to hang out long enough, look at where they end up. Right? And even if they don't move physically a whole lot, what you'll see, I'll take this, I'll take the Pringles cup. And what you'll see, can you see this over here? They'll start off at the beginning of the night like this, and this is their drinks, by the way. By the end of the night, their drinks will be like this. Because if a person can't move towards or away from physically, they'll do it symbolically. Okay? Oftentimes they'll happen simultaneously. The physical part of it and the symbolic part of it will happen at the same time. Okay? So, what does that look like? Once again, when I look at somebody, are they moving towards or away from? And here's your heuristics. Here's what you look for. Again, towards and away from is the meta key. So you're going to have what we call a decision principle. What does that mean? In the Combat Hunter program that I was alluding to earlier, the Combat Hunter program was a body language profiling system designed to spot terrorists before they had a chance to act. It was taught specifically to the Marines on the ground so that by looking at a group of people, they could figure out who was most likely there for less than benevolent methods. Okay? Now, if you go to the CP Journal, which is the website, it's been a few years since I've logged in. I highly recommend that site. I learned a lot, but I will warn you up front. It was created by ex-military people, and some of the videos actually show suicide bombers doing what they do. And your task, spot the bomber. Okay? Why? Because everything about military application is about getting left of bang. Left of, if this is 12 o'clock, right? And the bomb is set to go off at 12 o'clock, anything left of 12 is a good thing. You have to be proactive. You don't have time for a deep level analysis. You have a certain set of characteristics that you look for, a certain amount of times you need to see it, and then you have to make a decision and you act and it's your best guess. That's more or less what you're dealing with. Does that make sense? Okay? So, your decision principle, first and foremost, is comfortable versus uncomfortable. How do we know this? I just taught you. When someone's comfortable, what happens? Ventral line is open. If I'm sitting with this young lady here, can you come up for a second so everybody can see? And bring a chair. Is this useful?
Yes.
Okay. Bring your chair. Yeah, just use that one. It's fine. Sweetie, right here. Just bring this one. I can't see your name tag, so I have to use my default name, Sweetie. Right? I call everybody Sweetie. I called my cat Sweetie the other day. I don't have a cat. Then I realized I didn't have a cat, and I was like, what the fuck just happened? Where am I? Right, have a seat. Okay, so if we're talking, right, see what she's got? Look, feet closed. She's like, what the fuck's he going to do to me? Right? But what you'll notice is as people start to become more comfortable, they'll start to open up that line, right? And if you can manipulate them in a loving, gentle way to change their body's posture, their emotions will follow. Didn't know that, did you? Yes. So in our killer influence system, we've been teaching this concept mostly behind closed doors for the better part of 20 years. It's common knowledge that our psychology controls our physiology. Most people don't realize that the inverse is also true. If I can have you take a body language configuration that is analogous neurologically to an emotion I want you to experience, you'll have it within about 2 minutes. Okay? In fact, if you, well, you won't be able to find it unless you get one of the secret videos. But if you go to my YouTube channel and you type in, well, actually it's the same video, 7 stages. I think it's called Renegade Romance. I think that one, Renegade Romance is on the 3 magic questions, which is something we might talk about today if we have time. But the 7 stages, there's 2 versions of that video. There's one that I show the public, and there's one I show the influence students that I have. First one is you watch the 7 stages of body language so you can learn them and learn to see them out in the world. Behind closed doors, I dissect that video because what most people don't realize, and now that you see it, when you go watch the video, you'll spot it. As I bring somebody up to do the demo, right, and I'm teaching, like I have a room full of people just like you, and I've got this woman who doesn't know me from Adam, right, and I'm walking her through the 7 stages of attraction, right, and I'm doing space in between so I can talk to you guys and highlight the different things. If you watch her, she becomes progressively more attracted to me as the demo continues. Now, the women will pick it up fast. The guys will be like, what? Right? The first time I did this, my demo subject, I didn't know it at the time, my demo subject was actually a marriage and family therapist. And you literally, she doesn't even have a real drink in her hand. And like halfway through the demo, she's playing with her drink, like playing with her little pencil holder like it's a real drink, right? And when I was done, 80%, one woman stood up and said, that was the best chick flick I've seen in months, right? And it taught me something really powerful, is that everything human beings do is a mind-body feedback loop. But most of us get it wrong because we cater to the mind. But your physiology actually, in 99.99% of the humans you deal with, dominates your psychology. And it does it in such a way that your conscious mind can't overwrite it. So while theoretically the mind can control the body, in the vast majority of humans, it's the exact opposite that's true, functionally. Unless you're elite special forces, highly trained yogis, Shaolin monks, Buddhist priests, elite athletes, where you're taught specifically how to exert that level of control. We flirt with that as hypnotists, right? Because our domain is the mind and that subconscious mind. But most of us don't go through that level of training to be able to do that on demand in all kinds of environments. But if you have enough understanding of this feedback loop, then you can change your state even if someone's shooting bullets at you, right? Provided you can change your posture in a very, very consistent, reliable way, you can control your state. No one can knock you off your game ever again, right? Is Heather here? Oh, Heather's outside. One of my students recently had that tested. I can't talk too much, but someone she cared about very, very deeply was being grifted. And there was a lot of sneaky, underhanded stuff going on. And she had to fly out there and just go to war. And she called me up and she won. She that person's like somewhere on the run or something. But she called me up and says, thank you so much. Because it was her state control training, the physiology and the psychology that allowed her to just be clear-headed, targeted, strategic, and not overwhelmed by all the gaslighting and the he said, she said stuff going on. It was the state control. And so the key of your state control training is your physiology. Here's the principle. Write this down. If you want to follow up and learn more, I'll show you how to do that. For every psycho-emotional state a human being can experience or express, there is a corresponding physiology, a posture, and a breathing pattern that allows that to manifest. Okay? Why, okay, I will. For every psycho-emotional state, I'll say it 3 times. I'll do this like I do on my webinars. If I say it 3 times, you should probably write it down. For every psycho-emotional state a human being can experience, there is a corresponding posture/physiology and a breathing pattern that allows that state to manifest. Don't believe me, test it. Well, how do I test it, David? Why, I'm glad you asked. Would you assist me? Stand up. Would you assist me? Stand up. This is David going off script again. But I think this will help you guys. I really do. Because once you have an experience of it as opposed to the theory of it, you have you're much more likely to use it or train it. Does that make sense? So, I'm going to put these out of the way so we don't fall on each other. I want you to close your eyes. And I want you to think about a time in your life when you saw something you really, 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 really wanted. I mean, on a scale of 0 to 10, it was like a lust factor 47. Right? Not that one. No, I'm teasing. Now, I'm going to add one more parameter to this. It may change what you choose. It was something you wanted so much that you decided you were going to get it no matter what. You made a plan. You put that plan into operation. And no matter what got in your way, you worked that plan, you modified that plan, and then one day, boom, there it was. You nailed it. Home run, goal, score, trophy, award, diploma, big fucking paycheck, whatever it was. I want you to remember what you were seeing in that moment. I want you to remember what you were hearing, what you were smelling, and what you were tasting. Because when you see what you see, and you hear what you hear, and you smell and you taste what you smell and you taste, there's an amazing, wonderful feeling of absolute victory that you get. And as you remember that feeling, and you notice where in your body that is, I want you to stand the way you were standing in that moment of victory. I want you to breathe the way you were breathing in that moment of victory. And let those feelings just come flooding up, fully and completely, whole and total. And as that state locks in, I want you to imagine you could take a snapshot of the way you're standing, snapshot of the way you're breathing, and without changing a single thing at all about the way you're standing, about the way you're breathing, summon up your willpower, and as an act of will, try to feel bad. Go for it. Keep that posture. I'm watching. All right. When you're satisfied, stop testing, let go of that crap. Notice how good you feel. All right, have a seat really quick. Give yourself a round of applause. All right. So, what'd you notice? You're going to stand up in a minute, but I'm just going to keep getting you up and down like a church. All right? What did you notice when I had you hold that posture and hold the breathing, and I had you summon up your willpower and attempt to feel bad? What happened or didn't happen, as the case may be? Go ahead. Oh, we need a microphone. They're on my desk. Of course they are. I guess I become my own mic runner.
Come on, Donnie.
You're so pretty. Oh, I mean, that's not what you meant. Okay.
I was standing perfectly straight and tall, whatever, and all of a sudden I had the sensation that my shoulders had folded.
Bingo.
Just a tad, and then I went,
Perfect. And what happened when you went like that?
I was like, go away.
Exactly. How many of you noticed the moment I told you to attempt to feel bad, your body wanted to go, "Rrr." Guess what? That happens with most of us. All you got to do is exactly what she did. Boom. That doesn't mean stick your boobs out. Right? All you got to do is hold it. And you will interrupt whatever state your body's trying to access. It is so consistent that it doesn't matter what your conscious mind wants to do. If you hold the posture, the state will change. But David, what about negative stuff? Well, I'm glad you asked. Stand up again.
Does that mean that we can learn how to call up that straightening thing?
You just did. You just did. See, let's pretend for a moment that you've been feeling emotions and changing your posture your whole life. You just didn't know this was happening. But now that you do, you have a choice. My first rule as your teacher, regardless of what the class is that you're studying with me, is to help you become progressively more aware. Because without awareness, there is no choice. Now, I know this is a class on people reading and body language and all that stuff, but can we see how this translates and maps across to other people's states? They can't hide it. Right? Heuristic thinking. What's the continuum? Where do they fall on it? Make sense? This is the archetypal good guy, upstanding Lancelot posture. Right? When we think of people who are caring and honest and trustworthy and loyal and thrifty and brave, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, reverent. That rocked yesterday. Anyway, it's a Boy Scout motto, right? Right? When we think of people like that, don't we call them stand-up guys or straight shooters? Right? The archetype comes out in our language. Right? How do we talk about people who are less than honorable? Crooked, twisted, deviant, sanctuary, right? It's a continuum. Good, symmetrical posture, healthy, happy, attractive, desirable. Quasimodo, right? The less than positive, right? Crooked, undesirable, unhealthy, not trustworthy. What about people who are a bit naughty? I didn't even tell you what I was doing. The moment I hit the pose, you went, "Ooh, he's naughty." Right? 50-50. symmetry, extreme asymmetry, a little naughty. It's a continuum. You see, big picture stuff, right? Now, remember what I told you earlier. Everybody stand up nice and straight, like this. Right? And now, think, in that courteous, that Lancelot kind of way, and just go. And notice what happens to your feelings. Oh, this room got really fucking playful, didn't it? All right? So it's not big. This is Lancelot. This is not. Practice, shift back and forth. Notice how fast your state changes. You guys are never going to leave the house after this. Right? Now, in our Killer Influence, we devote a whole day to just learning how to shift in and out of any state you want through your physiology, then layering what we do with our brain and our emotions over top of that. But the reason we teach you the physiology first is because it can't be overwritten. It can't be overwritten. Have a seat. Give yourself a round of applause. That was really good. Is this useful?
Yes.
Okay. Because if you ever have to go in with a client and your state's for shit, hit a pose. Right? If you need to be playful, like if you're going to attend Tracy's comedy and hypnotherapy class or hilarity therapy class, which I highly recommend, right? Getting into that playful, witty repartee state going to be very helpful for you, right? Remember, we're state control experts. That's what people come to us for. And we as hypnotists have to go first. So the more we know about the tools, the better we can choose. Make sense? So first thing we want to look for at people, and I'd send her back to her chair, but when I was looking for her, you saw how she had her hands in front this way, and she had her feet tightly together. So the first thing I want to look at is where is she blocking that central line? Right? That shows me where her points of biggest concern are. Right? How easily, we'll pretend she's in the chair. Right? Or maybe I'll just bounce back and forth or some weird thing. Anyway. So how easily can I draw a straight line between my ventral line and theirs, right? If he's like, if you look at Frank, he's got his feet spread, he's doing that whole man spread thing, right? And he's completely open to me and he's completely comfortable, right? If Frank, I don't know if you guys can all see this, but if we're talking, so now he's less comfortable. Yeah. Because there's a block there now, isn't there? He's literally doing this. Yeah. Right? A lot of times, if you sidle up to people at the bar, even if they feel comfortable, put your elbow up on the bar. A lot of times you'll see this, right? And as someone becomes more comfortable, they'll switch to this, and then they'll switch to this. What's happening? They're slowly lowering the barriers to the ventral line. They're becoming more comfortable. Many times you'll see someone come up and they'll do something like this. Not just sit. Who's really more comfortable? This makes me comfortable because I'm safe. Because now I'm using an object to block my ventral line. Right? It is a little bit, right? But I'm protected. See, I mean, even here. Right? So again, the basic rule of thumb, and again, we're talking about heuristics now. When I look at somebody, how comfortable are they? Are they standing big? Remember, people who are confident, who are comfortable, open ventral line. People who are feeling dominant, confident, assertive, stand wide or hold wide space. Okay? And they go up and they go out. When they move from being confident and comfortable is the better word. A lot of people who want to be confident, what they're actually saying is, I want to stop being afraid. I want to feel comfortable in this situation. And that's how we measure confidence. So the ventral line is the big indicator of the level of comfort that somebody has. When somebody's moving from comfort into dominance, you will see this broader space, them taking up space both vertically and horizontally, but they'll also be more forward. So big and forward is dominance. Big and forward, dominance. But what about the opposite? What about, let's pass the microphone. All right, I'll take that. Thank you. Sir.
So why would Alan Silver stand with their arms crossed covering?
Protection.
If they're the dominant.
But yes, but you'll also see them take up, so when they cross the arms, right, they're not doing this. They're doing this. Right? Look at the big picture. The big picture is they're taking up space. Right? They're trying to look imposing, but this is still a warding gesture. Also, they all of them carry firearms, so they're really close. Right?
What kind of gesture is that?
This is more of a warding gesture.
And what would be a predatorial gesture?
A predatorial gesture, you're looking for some, again, it depends on the predator. This is a whole other study, and I have a whole courses on this. You're going to find that there's two kinds of predators. Not the lions, but the strength-based predators, right? And they're going to move through the world exhibiting characteristically antisocial behaviors. But all predators are narcissistic, right? So that word is way overused for our benefit. Anytime we don't like someone, we call them a narcissist, right? Right? And we're all narcissists. We're all somewhere on that spectrum, right? So someone who is more of a strength-based predator, they're going to look for anybody who appears weak. And if you want, I'll show you the victimology of what predators look for if you want to learn that. I have it. It's part of a course that I teach, right? But predatory behavior will, again, be a dominant type of behavior. The more bestial ones, more primal ones. They'll be big. They'll have forward leans. They'll have forward gestures. They'll be very directive. The difference is these people only respond to strength. So unless you can exhibit strength or force greater than theirs, you won't dissuade them from doing what they want to do. The other type of predator, they're the chameleons. They're the ones who take great pleasure in learning how to look like the good guys. Okay? So for those of you who are interested in that kind of profiling, there's a book by a woman named Wendy Patrick called Red Flags. Excellent book for people just starting to explore how to spot predators, how to profile predators. She has a whole profiling system. She was the assistant district attorney for the city of San Diego in charge of sex crimes. Wendy Patrick. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So we're looking for comfortable versus uncomfortable. This is especially true if we want to hypnotize somebody, right? Then we want to look at dominant versus subordinate or submissive. Now, once again, remember, we're taking a big picture approach to body language, right? Are there lots of little nuances and deviations that could indicate other things? Yes. But we're making an assumption that in the context and the environment in which we're operating, we don't have the time for an in-depth analysis. Now, the way I'm teaching you, we can start to utilize these things from across the room before we ever even encounter the person. And we can create what's called a baseline. A baseline is a snapshot of how they are normally, or where they're currently at. If I don't have that, I can't calculate when they change. Okay? This is a fundamental of all kinesics. You have to establish their baseline. And then you calculate deviance from the baseline. How do you calculate deviance from the baseline? It's called clustering. Any data point, and when I say data point, I mean any shift in what they're doing with their body, their speech patterns or whatever, from the baseline, any two or more shifts is considered a cluster. So, if I'm talking to this young lady here, and I say something, and she goes, "Oh, really?" She was here, right? And she goes, What just happened? Did she become more comfortable or less comfortable? Exact. It's that simple. That's all we look for. We establish a baseline. We have the exact characteristics we're searching for. We have specific search parameters that we're looking for. Our search parameters are they going to open their ventral line or close it off? Either literally, externally, using their own limbs, an object. Yeah. The moment somebody takes something and just starts playing, are they blocking or not blocking their center line? They're less comfortable. Well, I was just fidgeting. Yeah, but why? Fidgeting is a self-soothing gesture. It's a subtler version of away from. It's an attempt at comfort. If they were comfortable, why would they need to comfort themselves more? You see how it works, right? Any of these things indicates something's going on under the surface. Okay. Submissive. Okay, dominant. Wide, up. You'll see it in a lot of bars and stuff like that. This goes to your question earlier. A lot of people who are insecure do what they call posturing. I call it the rooster. Right? You ever see two people who are like working themselves up to get in a fight and they go, "Listen, motherfucker! No, you listen! No, you don't." And you ever see that? You're seeing posturing. They're trying to psych the other person out by appearing bigger, stronger, meaner, crazier than the other person. So what happens is most of us want to be in that little comfort zone, right? But the pendulum's always swinging. People who are really comfortable, they're just right in that middle zone. People who are less and less comfortable are going to do one of two things. They're either going to pretend to be more and more comfortable until they're bordering on aggressive behavior. But here's the thing. They're posturing. It's not real. They're pretending. And the higher they get to that apex of posturing, the closer they are to collapse, which is the other side of the spectrum. Right? And of course, there's people who go right from comfort to they just go into submissive. And I'll point something, when we go to the face reading, I'll show you some indications on the face where that could be, where collapse is actually more likely. And you'll see it a lot in places where, I see it in domestic abuse a lot. Sometimes I see it in people who were very, very controlled, had very, very controlling parents as children. The face will mark a certain way. And we'll share that with you, right?
I'll sign up for that one because I already went on stage anyway, so.
No, you're fine.
If you need it.
Yeah. Okay, so comfortable versus uncomfortable. What do we know? Tell me. This is oh shit, he's asking us questions. What do we know? Open versus closed. Ventral, constructive center, ventral line. The more unobstructed it is, the closer I get my ventral line to yours, the more I'm into you. Take it to the bank, okay? The other thing you want to look at is this is what we call towards and away from. Ventral line moves forward, I'm into you. Ventral line moves back, oh hell no. Right? Neutral, neutral, right? Easy. You can see it from across the room. And that's how I want you to train. Microphones again.
So if I take a pose, I'm trying to have a conversation that needs to accomplish something.
You need to use the microphone in front of your mouth.
I'm so sorry. I need
all right.
microphone lessons.
We do that. It's part of the training.
Of course you do. So if I take a pose where I lean back in the chair,
Mm-hmm.
I do this because I'm trying to show comfort, not insecurity or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Is that's not a closing? I'm trying to show comfort and security, and I'm cool.
Is that
kind
the
of
pose
thing.
we're talking about right there?
It's more like, I can't get my elbow up, but let's say I could actually reach the back of the chair. I leaned back just to show,
So you're doing this as a way to show that you're relaxed?
yeah.
Okay, so how would you normally sit if you were relaxed? Boom. Notice the difference? That's posturing. So this is how I sit when I'm relaxed, but I want to signal to you to relax, so I do this. No, just do what you would normally do when you're relaxed, because their mirror neurons will pick that up and understand it. The moment you shift to something that is approximating or mimicking what you think that you're trying to send, if you don't do it well, or your emotional state isn't congruent, that'll flag and they'll actually get uneasy. Something will be off. So one of the reasons that we begin every single class with the idea of hooked on the song, hooked on a feeling, is because the fastest way to change anybody's decisions, behaviors, perceptions is to change their body feelings. The fastest way to change their body feeling is to change yours first. And when you learn to influence from the feeling out instead of the body or the neocortex down, all of your nonverbals line up. There's no incongruity to catch because you're genuinely expressing the feeling that you're wanting to transmit. Now, if you're a good actor, I'm a pretty good actor. I can do a lot of stuff. But I assume that you can't spell acting, much less do it. I don't mean to demean intelligence or lower your, belittle your academics in any way, shape, or form. But when I think about creating, when I did this for me, I had to think, how can I make this idiot-proof? How can I make this so simple and so in alignment with what people already do anyway that it's just a small switch transition? And it's very simple. If you want to be perceived as something, generate the feeling in your body first. If the feeling is correct, the posture and the body language will be correct automatically. If the posture and the body language are correct, the breathing is correct. Therefore, any words that come out of your mouth, even if you're speaking Mary Had a Little Lamb, will be dramatically congruent and moving towards the effect you want to create. But most of us don't do that. We do influence from the neocortex down instead of the brainstem up. We try to say, okay, this is what a confident person looks like. This is how a confident person sounds. What just happened? It's like, what the fuck is he trying to prove? Right? Too much. And that's what flags you. Right? If I walk up, what's your name?
Tina.
If I walk up to Tina and say, Tina, this is a phone. You're like, yeah. Right? If I walk up to Tina, this is a phone. It's a phone. It's a phone. Now she's going, who the fuck are you trying to convince? What do you want? Right? That's what happens many times when we try to affect a body feeling instead of actually feeling it and letting our body do what it wants to do. It's incongruent, right? Now changing, I gave you the quick and dirty, just change your posture right away, and it doesn't matter what your neocortex wants to believe. But don't take my word for it. This is an amazingly powerful social skill, not just a therapeutic skill. I'll tell you one more story. I'm going to give you the last two parameters, and then if we need a brain break or something like that, I'll give that to you, and then I'll give you a choice. We can talk about lie detection or we can talk about face reading. And if we have time for do both, I'll do both, but we'll pick which one we're going to focus on first. Is this helpful?
Yeah.
Okay. So, back when I first started seeing clients, had to be 2015, 2016. My meetup program was doing super good. I was doing 2 or 3 meetups a day. My meetup is still the second largest meetup in the world for NLP and hypnosis. It's like 1,800 people. And I haven't taught a meetup consistently since before COVID. Right? I started doing a few here and there. But one lady came to my event. It was on how to reprogram the subconscious mind. And she was a massage therapist. She had a lot of high-ticket clients. She had very wealthy clients, and she was working all the time. And her son had a problem with, I think it was heroin. And he was in and out of rehabs. And she came up to me after a session, and she said to me, look, I don't know if you do this, but my son is having a problem. He's going in and out of rehabs, and he's not having a lot of success. He doesn't like his therapist. He doesn't like the people he has to work with. Could I bring him to see you and see if you could help him? I said, well, that's not where I focus, but I'll tell you what. It's okay with his therapists. I'll come in, I'll do a consult with him, and if it's a fit, we'll move forward. I can't make any promises. So she brought him in, big, tall kid. And we went through he passed the consult, and use my rapport skills to get him to really be happy and joyful and comfortable and stuff. I'm leaving all that stuff out because it's not relevant right now. I do the session. He's ready to go to rehab and finish his detox, whatever it is he's going to do. So I think, okay, job done. Whew, bullet dodged. 2 weeks later, I get a phone call at like 9 o'clock at night. My son's panicking. He won't go to rehab. He doesn't want to deal with his psychologist. He'll only talk to you. He's threatening to commit suicide. Can you help me? And I so wanted to say no. I said, I'm really not supposed. He only will talk to you. I'm like, okay, bring him in. So we do an emergency session. We schedule him. We bring him in the next day. I need someone really tall. Oh, you. Thank you for volunteering. Yeah. This is how I pick hypnosis subjects, right? So he comes in, young, strapping dude. He's actually taller than you, right? So I need you to be suicidal for me. So how do people who are really, really depressed stand? Okay, I thought he was going to try and kiss his belly button. This guy was literally like this. And I'm looking at him. So just be bent over. Okay, that's good enough. So I walk in and I see this kid. And I'm like, oh, hell no. And I knew right from the posture, because of the things I taught you, nothing I'm going to say is going to dent that. So I didn't even try. I literally walked up to him. I put one hand here, and I popped him up like this and held him there, and he burst out laughing. And I held him there for 2 minutes. And every time he tried to go back, boom, I popped him back. And then I started talking to him. And then we did the session, and he was great. Your physiology controls your psychology. Now, if you're going to go doing shit like that, you better have permission, right? But the whole point is if I have to physically move somebody into a posture and hold them there to break the state, I'll do it. Now, thank you. Give him a big round of applause, right? But everything starts with knowing the principle and then testing it and see how it works for you. What happened when I popped you up like that? What did you feel?
Energy came up.
Exactly, right? Now, one of the, you guys know that for the past couple decades and even before COVID, depression and all these other things were on the rise, right? And people became progressively more addicted to these things. You ever, you know what happens when you scroll or you swipe? You know what happens to your body? You slouch, but your body also secretes dopamine, which gives you that little rush. So you're fine in this posture as long as you got your phone. But the minute you put it down, right? Right? You start jonesing. That's why you have to have your phone where you can at least touch it. So you got the worst of both worlds. You've got a device that's programming you to be addicted, and you're activating a physiology that leads you to want to press and flick and switch. Practice this. Practice it. I bet if somebody could come up with a device that would just not throw it out of my hands like that, but just hold the fucking thing up here so we could see, we'd probably cut our depression rates in half. Huh? You do have those devices. Well, so again, if when you have the eyes to see and the ears to hear, it's everywhere. Let's talk about submissive really quick. So dominant, big, forward, right? Could be this, could be this. By the way, when someone gives you hand gestures, front of the hand or palm is entreating or asking. Back of the hand is aggressive. Side of the hand and tips, directing. So when you think about somebody who's pissed off at you, they don't go, hey! And they certainly don't do this. Right? What do? Right? Aggression. Entreating. Right? Submissive people will make themselves small It's the opposite. It's always going to be binary. Big people make themselves, or dominant people make themselves big. If they're not feeling that way and intentionally make themselves that way, they'll start to feel a little bit that way because of the posture, but they'll try to add more to it consciously, and that makes them incongruent. You'll feel the incongruence. And now they've gone from an actual physiological feel, a genuine feeling, into posturing, and that incongruity will flag itself, especially if you start to look for it, right? Submissive people will get small. They'll get quiet, and they'll also move forward because they're always asking, or they're always, please, can I have this? Please, can I have some more? Right? So look for the oscillation. When you're in a situation where somebody's coming in all belligerent and stuff like that, right? They're all like this, and all of a sudden you give them some point where their frame collapses. You don't see them go. You see them go. Right? They get smaller and they come forward. So when you're looking at the dominant submissive dynamic, who's big and forward, who's small and forward, you'll know who the alpha is. Okay? There's all kinds of other things. Like I said, there's millions and millions of body language cues that you could pay attention to. But trying to pay attention to all of them means you miss most of the big ones. The big ones will give you the frame around things. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay? So we have comfortable versus comfortable, dominant versus submissive. That's a good place to start, right? Defensive. Again, how are they? If they're shielding, if they're signaling discomfort, how are they doing it? Are they doing it by closing the lower ventral line? Are they doing it by closing the upper ventral line? Are they doing it by subtly changing? Does one part of the body move away while the other part crosses? The principles don't change. Does that make sense? I'm either moving towards and away from, I'm either giving you access, or I'm not. Okay. What else can we do? Now we get to some of the fun stuff. These are the expressions that I like to look at when I'm leading towards people. I look at their pupils. When somebody's pupils expand, they love what they like or are attracted to what they're hearing. The only time that's not true is when they're terrified beyond reason. And the way you check that is very simple. You look under their chair. If there's a puddle, they're not attracted. Well, stop it, Seth. I know what you're thinking, right? I felt the thought bubble from the front of the room, right? So if somebody is not liking what they're hearing or seeing, right? If they're thinking intensely, filtering information, the pupils will shrink. Small pupils does not indicate deception, although it's a precursor many times. I call this the pupil dance. So when I walk up to you and I start talking, and now I can see your pupils, I'm measuring their size. And as I talk about things I like or you like, I'm going to watch how they shift, right? I gaze at the eyes, I don't go, "Arr." So I don't do serial killer shit, right? We don't do that, right? That's an influence technique. I'll teach you later, right? But the idea is I'm using soft eyes here, right? I can see your pupils, but I'm not looking into them directly. I'm looking at your frame first. And so as I talk to you, I'll notice the postural shifts. How many people know what I mean when I say soft eyes? How many people know what I mean when I say hakalau? All right, let's stand up. This is going to be useful. Okay, so one of the things that we want to do when we're learning to watch big picture movement is we want to be able to see as many different data points as possible. So we have two types of vision. We have straight line vision, so think of it like a binocular, right, where I'm just zooming in, right? And then we have what we call foveal vision, which is peripheral vision. Now, when you use peripheral vision, you won't see anything clearly, but you'll see almost everything. And because of the way you evolved, your peripheral vision is uniquely designed to pick up movement. So when I'm going soft eyes, I can see her, I can see her, I can see him, I can see Brumble playing with his, whatever he's playing with, I can see her chewing, I can see all the movement, even though I might not be able to pick out, your facial or micro expressions. So when we start looking for these big picture shifts, Peripheral vision is useful. So how do we train this? It's very simple. I want you to find a point directly in front of you or on a wall. And what I want you to do is I want you to zoom out and focus your eyes at the center point of the wall. From here, what I want you to do is I want you to extend your vision so you can simultaneously see the floor and the ceiling at the same time. From there, I want you to go ahead and expand your vision laterally so you can take in the walls, the floor, and the ceiling at the same time. I'm going to give you guys a little extra. As you're doing that, become aware of the space around your body. And imagine now that you could extend that feeling all the way to the wall where your eyes attach, expand it, and wrap it around you. And notice how your awareness of the room changes. Now, this is a very, very useful physiological state control technique. If you're doing it right, notice how quiet your mind gets. It'll shut off internal dialogue. Okay? This is if I want to put somebody into a trance, and I look through them and I shift into that state, they'll go into trance faster. Because it links your proprioceptive neurology with theirs. So any state change I go through, their mirror neurons will pick it up and they'll follow. Now, that's the technique. It's a skill. You have to practice, right? So I want you to be as playful as humanly possible with it, right? So this is, in some systems, this is called hakalau, which to me means to see far. Some martial arts styles often call it soft eyes. And this is a great way for you to be able to pick up movement, but also you can put the whammy on somebody really quick, right? Because once I wrap my kinesthetics around it, any feeling state I go through, their proprioceptive awareness will pick up and reflect. Like it? You can feel it, can't you? Yeah. So this is how you start to do nonverbal, or what the Eastern systems call telepathic hypnosis. Because of that connection through the proprioception and the mirror neurons, if I start generating intense body feelings and or commands, their nervous system, after you reach a certain level of development, will start to pick it up and reproduce it. Okay? It's kind of cool. And I don't use the word telepathic lightly because I can't show you that, but I can show you a mirror neuron in an anatomy book. I can show you the proprioceptive nervous system. And now I'm teaching you why our state control is the one thing you'll never see on a YouTube video. It's our secret sauce. It allows us to do crazy shit. You guys notice that people just tend to go into trance whenever I talk? It's not a mistake. It's a skill set, right? And it's something, I'm not special. It's something you can all do. You just got to have the teachings, right? So for you guys, it starts out as a way to observe people, to observe a lot of things at one time, quieting your mind and allowing you to be you notice you're very, very present when you go into that state? You're not in your head making plans or thinking. You're here in the moment. And that's where all the power is. So if you graph this onto any meditation practices or things like that, you're going to get to the states you want faster. And it's just the same principle I began with. Your physiology controls your psychology. Okay, have a seat. Thank you. All right. So pupils. Pupils are big. Right along with pupils. Right along with pupils. The speed at which the eyelids blink. My friend Chase calls that shutter speed. Right? How rapidly are they blinking? The faster the blink, the less they like it. The more cognition they're having. Right? If I'm talking to somebody and they're blinking like, I've got to go up here. I'll use my female assistant up here. If I'm talking to somebody and their blinking is going, and I say something, and all of a sudden it goes, what do I know? They didn't like what I said. Right along with that, you guys have probably noticed this with your clients sometimes, or sometimes just in conversation. You'll be talking to someone, and you'll say something, and as they're speaking, their eyelids do this. They flutter for a fraction of the, it's called fibrillation. When that happens, they're processing some kind of a strong emotion. It's a micro expression, but it's not one everybody talks about. I see it predominantly in females, but I have seen it in males, so you all do it. But women are much more in touch with their emotional states than the average man is. So I see it more in females. But when you see that rapid flutter of the eyes as they're discussing or remembering something, that's a very strong emotional charge to the issue. Make note of it, and when the time is appropriate, either call attention to it and unpack it, or find some way to get them to volunteer the information. Microphone.
When you see someone blinking quickly, does that mean the critical faculty is like really highly activated?
So the question was, if I see someone blinking really fast, does it mean that their critical faculty is highly activated? Not necessarily. That I correlate that a little bit more with the pupils, when the pupils constrict, but it could be because they start processing information faster or going into a fight or flight mode because of the emotional charge. You ever notice a lot of times that when you're afraid, that dialogue just speeds up? Like you're hamster wheeling into oblivion, right? So there's probably some level of connection there, but I don't know enough to say definitively one way or the other.
We saw a lot of that on the news over COVID, who were the lying reporters versus the ones who telling the truth.
Yeah. So she said, I think the microphone was off. She said, we saw a lot of that during COVID. Yes. What'll happen is, and this is a great primer that someone may be lying, doesn't believe what they're saying. When you see that shutter speed just start going, trust me, they're not comfortable. They're not comfortable. Now, what they do in the face of that discomfort, that's a behavioral thing, not a body language thing per se. So, how fast are the eyes opening and closing? The other characteristic here that I think is extremely useful, and there's three that go with the eyes, so I'm always gazing at the eyes. I'm not staring into the eyes, right? I'm gazing gently and softly. I'm using my soft eyes to just scan the face. And I'll explain why I do this when I get to the emotional markings on the face, because it's important. The other thing that happens is called blink rate. So in shutter speed, you've got this rapid open and closing, right? Blink rate is how many times do they actually blink in the space of a minute. The more someone likes what they're hearing, the slower and less often they blink. So they're not the same characteristic. They're often confused. There's the speed at which someone does a blink and the amount of time they blink in a given minute. The slower, in both cases, less is more. The slower the blink, the more they like it. The less blinks there are, the more they like it. The faster and more often, the more uncomfortable or the more processing they're doing. Make sense? Okay. See, what do I need to cover yet? Do I need to give you guys a break? All right, I'm sorry. I should have given you a break sooner. Is this useful?
Yes.
Okay, cool. All right, let's talk about face reading. Thank you very much. Thank you. All right, I love face reading. Absolutely. I go through an extreme bout of gratitude every single day because I've had access and come across some of the most amazing human beings on the planet. People who have knowledge and information and skills that have just transformed everything else that I do and the results that we produce. And I'm so honored to be able to share these things with you and hope that you can take them out into the world and be the change that you so want to be. Right? I can't do, I went in practice, I stopped doing my practice to focus on teaching. I've started taking clients again, but I can't do it alone. I need you. I need all of you to go out and do this and add this to what you already do and help as many people as possible. Okay? Thanks. So let's talk about the face. And I'm going to do something a little bit different this time. I want to start with the center of the face, or the central line of the face, because it leads us directly to this idea of dominance and submissive, and what I talked about earlier, which is the pendulum. You have comfort, you have posing, and you have collapse. So one of the big things, all moments of trauma, either a one and done or the cumulative result of micro traumas or multiple traumas over time, are the result of a boundary violation of some kind. Whether perceived or literal, it doesn't really matter if the boundary violation was actually what happened. It was the perception of what happened that creates the trauma. Okay, and that's why many times you'll have people get T-boned by a car and they're traumatized every time they go through an intersection. Some people work in a critical care unit, have never been T-boned by a car, but have dealt with 500 people who have. And each one added a little layer until finally they can't go through an intersection because of all the accumulated secondary trauma. Doesn't matter how they got it. What matters is they got it. Now, this is also something I talked about this, I think, yesterday, a little bit in resistance removal. And if I didn't say it yesterday, it should have been said. It needs to be said in this. In every class I teach, human beings, and you should know this already, but human beings are not the way they are because of the things that happen to them. They are not the way they are because of the getting T-boned by the car, or getting, again, please take this in the spirit in which it's intended, being raped as a child, or having an abusive mother or father. Those were things that they experienced, and they were bad. But they aren't the problem. Exactly. Your clients aren't the way they are because of the things that happen to them. They're the way they are because of the way their nervous system recorded the thing that happened to them and the way they've been relating to those recordings. Period. Using the car metaphor, I drive through an intersection. I get T-boned by a car once when I'm 18 years old. 25 years later, I still can't go through an intersection. How many times have I been T-boning myself? I know that's always taken that way. Yeah, it's like, I kind of intended that for a little levity. But the truth is every time I go through an intersection, I play the movie. And every time I play the movie, I re-experience the event. But it's not the event. It's a recording of the event. And if you just say this one thing to your clients, you will see a massive shift in seconds. That means you already won. Your nervous system recorded that as a trauma because you thought you were going to die. But you lived, which means you beat it. You were stronger than what attacked you. The very fact that you're in this chair having this conversation means you beat every single thing that came at you. You won. The worst is over. The rest is cleanup. There's nothing in you haven't already beaten. Watch them shift. Right? It's a simple little thing. And it's 100% true. Because if that accident killed you, problem solved. True or not true? Right? I like to be as here's a secret. Even if you just do your work from as playful, curious, and explorational energy as possible, even when you're dealing with the most heinous, traumatic things one human being can experience, either caused by another human being or by an act of God, you'll be so much better and move your clients through transformation faster. Now, I'm not saying don't be empathic or caring or confident, but many of us have discovered that just getting the client to be able to laugh at something, even once, is tremendously liberating and therapeutic. Okay? All right. Back to our regularly scheduled program. I'm going to make this bigger if I can. That wasn't right. There we go. Okay. I tend to lose resolution. Okay, Mercury's added in. All right. So can you guys see these lines right here, I know some of you in the back, man, if you want to come up and look, you're more than welcome to do that. What you'll see in some people when they get in your chair is you'll see little wrinkles or little lines down the side of the nose, just like this. It comes from things like this. Okay? My teacher, Lillian, called these disempowerment lines. And I don't like that term, primarily because it doesn't really explain what that means or the behavior that goes with it. Yes, it is a type of disempowerment. But when you see people with these lines, what it means is at some point in their life, somebody violated their boundary. And they got pissed. They stood up for themselves and did their best to fight back. But when they stood up and did their best to fight back, the person they were fighting against fought back even harder and with overwhelming force of some psychological, mental, emotional. And rather than continue fighting, they collapsed. They went into appeasement mode. Okay, whatever you want, just don't hurt me. I'll do whatever you want. I'll do anything to make it better. They lapsed into appeasement. If you repress, if you lapse into appeasement and you engage in those feelings and those behaviors, these lines develop. And many times what you're seeing is somebody who will, if you press their boundaries, they'll put up a fight, but if you just push a little harder, they'll cave. And I have a theory, I can't prove it, I have a theory that a lot of social predators know what that is. Either consciously or subconsciously, it's hardwired into them some way, right? It's an unpleasant fact that many people who are sexually abused, raped, whatever, are often raped or sexually abused a second and third time by different people. Why? What's the signal? What's putting them in that person's sights? What's putting them on the menu? Right? It's a rhetorical question. But yes, sir. Microphone.
Yeah, I'm not answering your question. I'm making a statement. Somebody I'm talking to who has been violated.
Here you go. Mm-hmm.
Not answering your question, just making the statement that somebody that I know who has been violated emotionally and physically, I'm going to say throughout her entire life. It's interesting because I see a behavior in her that she needs to go back to these people. Most of them are men, and somehow prove herself. That she's very attached to that trauma, attached to the way that they hurt her. And when I kind of categorically put it on the table, like, look, like you're attaching to pain at the complete ignorance of even thinking about what your pleasure is. You're in this pain mode. And I was surprised how much she needs to validate and go back to the things that hurt her.
Yes, 100%. Because she's identified. Were you in my class yesterday?
No, I wasn't.
Okay, so one of the
I was
things.
far away yesterday.
Well, I'm glad you're here now. Thank you. Right. One of the things I said yesterday is that human beings can't have their values stimulated, their emotional needs stimulated, without experiencing intense pleasure or intense desire. Because we're driven to satisfy our emotional needs. Conversely, you can't have your values violated without experiencing extreme emotional pain. And as a rule, people can't violate their own values. Except when a person has been so traumatized and their sense of self so demeaned and minimized that their entire validation and value as a human being comes from an external source. Their values shift, they turn off because they don't have enough sense of a self to stand up. So the values of the perpetrator become the values of the person. Right? If you read some of the books by William Sargent, I believe is the gentleman's name, I believe he refers to this personality reversal as psychological inhibition? Paradoxical inhibition, thank you. right? I do a lot of studies on like mind control and brainwashing because I want to understand this on a deeper level so I can make it, the therapeutic approach is more powerful. And we saw, and the paradoxical inhibition is so organic to the system that it was first discovered in dogs. By Ivan Pavlov actually discovered that. He discovered that when dogs went through a certain level of trauma, friendly dogs would become nasty dogs. Nasty dogs would become friendly dogs. And he actually found 4 different personality types in animals that roughly correspond to the Greek archetypes of Hippocrates: sanguine, phlegmatic. There's a literal correlation there, and that goes directly to the hormonal pathway that I talked about earlier. There's an alignment there that's really cool, but that's not what we're here to talk about, right? But if you get our reading list, you can always, and the reading list is free. It's right up there. You can just take a snapshot of it. It's like 300 books. So, okay, why is that happening? Okay, so disempowerment lines. Start paying attention to this. And what's interesting is if you actually get to the point where you can attack and unpack this, and you start releasing a lot of that trauma, those lines will start to fade. One of the craziest things I ever saw. The first time I heard it, I was like, bullshit. Right? Turns out it's true. When you are doing a face reading with people, and you start to unpack the emotions of the face, when you resolve that emotion, the lines will start to fade. The actual bony architecture of the skull will change. Why? Because you're mostly light. And as you change the emotional density of your system, you look different because the angle of refraction changes, right? How many face readers do we have in here? How many people have seen the faces change? Boom, right? Don't talk to me, talk to them. It's crazy. The next one I want to talk about is right up here, right between the eyebrows. This one, we have 2 variations on this. When you see the double lines, like I do, right? I've earned these. I am pathologically impatient. No. It symbolizes irritation, frustration, or annoyance. So I'm always in a hurry. I'm always dealing with some level of shit not happening the way it's supposed to happen, right? I'm working on it. I'm getting better, right? Impatience, irritation, or annoyance, right? Well, so what if you just drive in California all day long? Point taken, right? Right? So one of the other ones you want to look for in your clients now is the single line down the center. Okay? Now this can be a very shallow, short line, or it could be a big-ass divot, right? This is called a suspended needle or suspended sword. And this is important because this represents suppressed anger and resentment, usually towards the dominant male or dominant member of a family. In classical Chinese face reading, it symbolizes anger from a son to a father or from a father to a son. Whether that's true or not, I'll let you figure that out. But if whoever the dominant figure, the authoritarian figure in that family unit was, there's some kind of animosity there. And this also represents the expression of anger with consequences. So in this disempowerment line here is someone who had experienced a boundary violation. They pushed back, the person pushed back harder, and they collapsed. They appeased, right? Think of Edith Bunker from All in the Family. It's okay, Auntie, we'll make it better, just calm down. Yeah, right? In this one, somebody pushes my boundary, I push back, we explode, I express my anger, and I got punished for it. And I get punished so badly, I decide I am never, ever, ever going to get that angry again. And so I subconsciously cut my energy in half. Right? Now that's bad enough. Why? Because in Chinese elemental theory, this area is the wood area. The wood element of the body. The wood element of the body is the achievement energy of the body. So this line will often manifest as self-sabotage. It'll manifest as a failure to launch or an inability to move beyond a certain point in life. Why? Because the energy is blocked. The energy is blocked. They'll reach a certain point and they'll either have a fight with their boss, they'll get bored, they'll say they can do it better, they'll lose interest, and they'll start again. And then they'll work themselves up to a certain level, and poof, something will happen, and they'll start again. And they may have hundreds of skill sets, and they're good at them, but they can't ever seem to get beyond that level of achievement, like monetarily or in terms of renown or reputation, without blowing, and then they blow themselves up and start again. These people will also often exhibit a very, very marked degree of passive-aggressive behavior. Why? Because in their mind, they're still fighting that fight. They're still trying to be right. And so any authority figure that they deal with becomes the surrogate dad. Understand?
Do you see it in women though?
Oh yeah. I see it in women towards their mothers all the time. All the time. Yeah. It's a pretty consistent marking. Who had the hand up? Yeah. Well, the thing is that people in the room could hear you, but whoever watches the video wouldn't be able to hear you. And go ahead.
Hold the button till the light comes on. Like that.
There's two lines in that picture. Are
Mhm.
you talking about
I'm talking
one?
a single line.
Single line.
Yeah. In this emotional map, when for some reason, maybe because she didn't want to create confusion or whatever, when Lillian created this map, she only did the double line. But in the Jing training, and there's different levels, I can look at the face has different levels to it. What you're seeing is one level. There's a whole level that just tells me about your constitution, the things you're good at, how dominant you are, how boss you are, personality stuff. Those are basically based on the shapes and the contours of the body, not the wrinkles. So there's a whole lot of behavioral and characterological or temperamental level. I should say temperamental or attitudinal. Because one of the things now Lillian could do it. I can't do it yet, or I can extrapolate a bit. But Lillian could look at you and say, criminal, criminal, criminal. She was usually looking at some orange-skinned dude whenever she said it. I don't know, maybe she was a little bitter. But Lillian was so good. She could look at your face and tell you your Myers-Briggs profile.
Tell you what,
Tell you your Myers-Briggs profile. Yeah. She's pretty accurate. I'm working on it. I can get some of it, right? What's that? Live demo. Maybe if we have time, but I don't think we will. First time I taught face reading at Hypno Thoughts, we did it on the end of the day on Sunday. I had twice as many people in the room as I have now. 7 o'clock, I still had twice as many people in the room. I couldn't leave. I was face reading. It was to us, our profession, this is a game changer. Like everything I share with you are things that I had a problem and I said, I'm going to fucking fix this. This gives us so much credibility and authority in the life, in the mind of the client, that everything we say becomes suggestion, which is what you got to be careful of. Because if you become a face reader, you become an abreaction magnet. Like you'll walk up to someone and say, wow, what happened when you were 5? 2.5 hours later, you're still fixing shit. There's some weird, think of it as a transmission. Maybe it's something on the part of the client, but the moment you become a face reader, you trigger people. They become fascinated with you, don't get me wrong, but you better have good skills because you're going to open some shit up. And it's a good thing because they needed it, right? But I'm just warning you, if you choose to become a face reader, and we're going to open up classes and stuff. Yes, Wendy?
I've done a party on this, fantastic, everyone line up.
Yeah, they'll line up. You won't be able to get out of a room. You'll be the most popular person at every party you go to. It's a great social lubricant. And as a dating tool, so you look at that face and go, oh, hell no. I do, yeah. There's actually a trait that's not on here. We call it the hedonistic lip. which will drive you to drink. But anyway, yeah. Hold on, let's get the microphones. I know you guys have questions, but the more questions I answer, the less traits I teach.
Can you see that on the online profile?
Yes. Yeah. The thing about online profiles is that, thank you. The thing about online profiles is you don't get depth perception. So a lot of times the features are out of proportion. Lillian would do a lot of things through Zoom and through Skype, but she would have the person submit pictures from every angle, and then she would be referencing that for the week before the session, and then when she brought this on, she had it pretty well mapped out what she was going to talk about, right? But yeah, you can do it, absolutely can do it through Zoom. In fact, the first time I ever did Golden Path reading, which is all about helping you find out what your mission in this life is and then programming you to get on it. That's part of this training. Lillian had very specific rules. She only did it, she wouldn't do it for more than 13 people, and she would never do it virtual. First time I did it, I had over 22 people, and I had to do it through Zoom because COVID shut me down out of Texas, and I wasn't going to cancel the class. So it turns out it works very, very well. Yeah.
Is there a facial expression that gives you more information than another?
No, not exactly, but that's a great question. So a lot of us have heard of this thing called microexpressions, right? And then we have what we're doing here. So they're different aspects of the same thing. A microexpression is a facial trigger or facial tick or movement that is dynamic. You access an emotion, you have the experience, you try to suppress it, and then you move on. It's what from a profiling context, it's what we call active profiling because it's dynamic. It's happening in real time in the moment. This is what we call passive profiling, not because it's actually passive, but because it shows us the resting state of the person. It shows us the consequences of a lifetime of microexpressions. What they've been doing most often, what they've been holding in, what they've refused to express, that's always there. Oh, I remember. You came to that class. I said, you're a lawyer, aren't you? No. Yeah. So you want to hand on the microphone so you can speak?
Yes.
Yes, okay. I remember him because you were asking me about if I could do a face reading. I was actually, in that segment where I was doing the face reading, he was sitting there, and I looked at him, and I saw his skepticism lines, and I said, you're a lawyer, aren't you? He goes, how did you know that? Skepticism line marks here. It starts at the middle of the eyebrow and tracks laterally across the brain. So when you start learning how to do this, if you're going to, by the way, you can make a good side money to your practice doing face readings. Lillian, my teacher, she would charge $750 for a reading and get it easily, right? You could do that from anybody who wanted to learn more about themselves. About 90 minutes. Yeah. It's not a bad day, right? Right? But my point is that hypnotherapy and face reading, oh my God, it's like chocolate and peanut butter. I'm serious because Lillian was trained in Orient. She understood Oriental medicine. She wasn't licensed in any form of therapy whatsoever. She studied psychology in college, but her face reading was from her family, and nobody else wanted to do it. So she took it, and it pretty much died with her, except for us, people who were kind of carrying on that training. And that's one of the reasons I have 2 face reading tracks. I have the classical face reading that I learned from Lillian, and I have what I call modern face reading, or face reading for fun and profit, which is for Americans who don't have time to learn wood, fire, earth, jing, qi, shen, and all the nuances of Oriental medicine. And it goes back to what I showed, and then the modern systems go back to what I taught you earlier with the Hakalau. I teach the information not in the classical 5 elements, but in the way people naturally look at faces. So for example, when a person looks at a face, they do one of 3 things. They scan it from top to bottom, right to left. They look at the eyes, or they look at the mouth, or they bounce. So I organize the material based on how you naturally look at people with your eyes anyway. So the first thing you learn about is all about foreheads and hairlines and brow bones. It doesn't matter what the element is, it just tells you what the characteristics are. So you literally just check a box. Oh, they have an M-shaped hairline. Oh, they have a rounded forehead. Oh, they have a prominent brow bone. Click, click, click. I know what those mean. I give you the reading in 90 seconds. Yeah, that's our test. We put a face on the screen from somebody else. One of the other class members submits a face. We put it on the screen. I point at you and say, read that face. Tell me what you can in 90 seconds, right? So, how many people came late and did not sign up for the raffle? Okay, so if you did not sign up for the raffle, I think they're telling me I need to leave. This is what we're. What's that?
I said your time's up, that's between you and Tracy.
Well, Tracy's up next, so she's actually one of my face readers, but she's going to teach you about use of comedy and hypnosis, right? Hilarity and hypnosis.
Creepy, cringy, quiet busters.
Oh, okay, great. What she said. So this is what we're gonna. Anybody who came tonight and gives me scans the QR code, gives me their name and number, is going to have an opportunity to win a free VIP coupon to any 2 live trainings, any 2 full video courses, and 5 smaller digital video events. It's not something you can buy. You'll get an email from me saying, "Hey, you won this. What do you want to come to?" Okay. So the way you do that is just scan this code. Or not.
Just so you know, that phone number thing on that form doesn't accept international. There's only international people here.
Oh.
Just so you
Well,
know.
if that's the case,
But there's an email. So.
yeah, email david@nlppower.com, and I'll put you in.
Which one a reading list?
Yes, it's right here.
Oh, it's right there.
Yeah, oops.